Fade in to the sound of a soft piano melody playing in the background. Imagine golden hour sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating an opulent living room filled with lush velvet furniture and abstract art pieces. A woman with long, sleek, dark hair, tied loosely into a bun, stands by the window, her silhouette framed against the warm glow outside. Beyoncé Carter-Knowles was no stranger to perfection. To the world, she embodied it, every curve of her athletic yet graceful body, every strand of her glossy chestnut hair, every note that spilled from her voice like liquid gold. She lived in a sprawling penthouse atop one of Manhattan's most exclusive towers, where the skyline stretched endlessly before her eyes. Her life seemed like something out of a fairy tale, harmonious blend of success, love, and family. But as she gazed out at the city below, her reflection revealed something else entirely. Worry etched into the lines around her mouth, a shadow lurking behind those usually radiant brown eyes. Her youngest daughter, Amara, had always been the quiet one. At 10 years old, she carried herself with a maturity far beyond her age, often lost in books or sketching intricate patterns on sheets of paper. But lately, there was something different about her. Something wrong. Beyoncé noticed it first when Amara began pulling her sleeves down over her hands, even during the hottest summer days. Then came the bruisement, faint marks scattered across her arms that looked suspiciously deliberate. When questioned, Amara would shrug them off with a forced laugh. "I tripped," she'd say, or "I bumped into something." But Beyoncé wasn't fooled. Not for a second. Her maternal instincts screamed louder than any excuse could silence. This wasn't just clumsiness. This was fear. Jay-Z enters the scene, his tall frame leaning casually against the doorway. He wears a tailored navy suit jacket, rolled up sleeves exposing strong forearms. His expression is calm but curious, watching his wife intently. "Bae?" he said gently, breaking the tension-filled silence. His voice carried warmth, but beneath it lay a hint of concern. "You've been standing here for 20 minutes. What's going on?" She turned slowly, her gaze meeting his. For a moment, neither spoke. Then, finally, she exhaled sharply, letting the weight of her thoughts settle between them. "It's Amara," she admitted softly, her tone laced with unease. "Something's not right." Jay-Z frowned, stepping closer. "What do you mean? Talk to me." "I don't know exactly," Beyoncé replied, shaking her head slightly. "But I feel it. It's like she's carrying something heavy, and I can't figure out what it is." The conversation lingered in the air, unresolved. As night fell, casting shadows across their luxurious home, Beyoncé couldn't shake the feeling that the cracks in their seemingly perfect world were deeper than she ever imagined. And somewhere deep inside, she knew she wouldn't rest until she uncovered the truth. The scene shifts to a sunlit afternoon in the Carter-Knowles' sprawling backyard garden. Vibrant flowers bloom in neat rows, their petals catching the golden light of early fall. A wooden patio table is set with fresh fruit and tea, steam rising from delicate porcelain cups. Marcus Reed steps into view, a tall man in his mid-40s with chiseled features, a warm smile, and an air of confidence that borders on charm. He wears a crisp white button-down shirt with rolled-up sleeves and khaki pants, blending seamlessly into the picturesque setting. Marcus Reed had been part of their lives for years. A successful tech entrepreneur with a knack for philanthropy, he was the kind of person who seemed too good to be true. Always ready with a kind word or a helping hand, Marcus had earned the trust of both Beyoncé and Jay-Z. He attended charity galas, hosted fundraisers, and even babysat Amara on occasion. To everyone else, he was the epitome of reliability, trusted friend. But Jay-Z wasn't convinced. From the moment Marcus entered their orbit, something about him rubbed Jay the wrong way. Maybe it was the way he lingered a little too long during conversations, or how his eyes seemed to dart around the room as if searching for something for someone specific. Whatever it was, Jay couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus wasn't entirely what he appeared to be. One evening, after another charity event where Marcus had spent more time chatting with Amara than anyone else, Jay pulled Beyoncé aside. They stood under the soft glow of string lights strung between trees, the hum of conversation fading into the background. "Listen," Jay began, his voice low but firm. "I don't trust this guy. There's something off about him." Beyoncé raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised. "Jay, come on. Marcus has been nothing but supportive. You're just being paranoid." "No, I'm serious," Jay insisted, leaning closer. "He spends way too much time around Amara. And you know me, I don't get these vibes for no reason." For a moment, Beyoncé hesitated. She wanted to believe Jay, but Marcus had always seemed so genuine. Besides, she reasoned, wouldn't she notice if anything were truly amiss? You're overthinking things, she said finally, her tone gentle but dismissive. Marcus is fine. Let's focus on what really matters, Sore family. As days turned into weeks, Marcus continued to weave himself deeper into their lives. He organized playdates for Amara, brought her gifts, and even helped Beyoncé plan surprise birthday parties for the kids. On the surface, everything appeared harmonious. But beneath the smiles and laughter, cracks began to form subtle at first, but growing wider with each passing day. One afternoon, while preparing dinner in the kitchen, Beyoncé noticed Amara flinch when Marcus reached out to pat her shoulder. The gesture seemed innocent enough, but the reaction struck her like a lightning bolt. Why would her daughter recoil like that? Before she could ask, Marcus laughed it off, saying, "Oh, sorry, kiddo, didn't mean to startle you." Amara forced a weak smile, but Beyoncé saw right through it. That night, as she tucked her daughter into bed, she asked gently, "Sweetheart, is everything okay with Marcus?" "I'm fine, Mommy," Amara replied quickly, avoiding eye contact. Too quickly. Beyoncé's gut tightened. Something was definitely wrong. The scene opens in the dimly lit hallway of the Carter-Knowles' penthouse. The soft hum of an air conditioner fills the space, punctuated by the rhythmic ticking of a wall clock. Beyoncé walks briskly down the corridor, her heels clicking against the polished hardwood floor. Her heart races, each step heavier than the last. She wears a fitted gray sweater and charcoal slacks, her hair tied back into a sleek ponytail. The atmosphere is tense, almost suffocating. It was late at night when Amara's scream shattered the silence. Beyoncé bolted upright in bed, her pulse pounding in her ears. Without hesitation, she sprinted toward her daughter's room, every instinct screaming urgency. As she pushed open the door, the sight that greeted her froze her blood. Amara sat huddled in the corner of her room, her small frame trembling violently. Tears streamed down her face, soaking the edges of her pajamas. Her arms were wrapped tightly around her knees, as if trying to shield herself from some invisible force. Beyoncé rushed to her side, dropping to her knees and pulling her close. "Baby, what happened?" Beyoncé whispered urgently, her voice cracking with emotion. "Tell me everything." At first, Amara clung to her mother in silence, unable to speak through her sobs. But eventually, the words spilled out halting, fragmented, but devastatingly clear. Marcus had been hurting her not just physically, but emotionally. He'd isolated her, telling her no one would believe her if she spoke up, that her own mother wouldn't care enough to listen. Each revelation felt like a knife twisting deeper into Beyoncé's chest. "I'm so sorry, baby," Beyoncé murmured, her voice breaking. "I didn't know. I promise you, we're going to fix this. We're going to make it stop." But even as she held her daughter close, Beyoncé knew this wasn't just about fixing something, it was about fighting. Fighting for justice, for truth, for her child's safety. And that fight would come at a cost. The next morning, Beyoncé called Jay-Z before he left for work. Their conversation was brief but intense. His reaction mirrored hers, a mix of fury and resolve. Together, they decided to confront Marcus immediately. They couldn't let him continue walking freely, preying on innocent lives. When Marcus arrived later that day, unaware of their plan, he greeted them with his usual charm. Dressed casually in a navy blazer and jeans, his smile faltered slightly upon seeing the somber expressions on their faces. "Beyoncé, Jay-Z," he said smoothly, stepping inside. "What's going on?" Jay-Z stepped forward, his jaw clenched. "We need answers, Marcus, now." Beyoncé followed, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "Amara told us everything, about the bruises, about the threats. You've hurt my daughter, and we won't stand for it anymore." For a moment, Marcus froze. Then, slowly, his mask slipped. The charm disappeared, replaced by a cold, calculating gaze. "This is ridiculous," he spat. "You're letting your imagination run wild. I've done nothing wrong." But Beyoncé wasn't backing down. Not now, not ever. The scene transitions to a bustling New York City street, where the sun casts long shadows over the towering skyscrapers. Beyoncé walks briskly through the crowd, her head held high despite the weight pressing down on her shoulders. She wears a tailored black blazer over a white blouse, paired with navy trousers and sleek black heels. Her dark hair is styled in loose waves, framing her face with a mix of strength and vulnerability. Around her, reporters swarm like bees, their microphones thrust forward, cameras flashing incessantly. The news spread faster than anyone could have anticipated. Within hours of filing the restraining order, headlines erupted across every major outlet. Beyoncé accuses family friend of abuse, and Marcus Reed denies allegations, calls claims a smear campaign. The world watched, divided between those who believed Beyoncé and others who questioned her motives. Some accused her of using her platform for personal vendettas. Others praised her courage. But amidst the chaos, one thing remained clear. This was no longer just a private matter, it had become a public battle. Inside her lawyer's office, Beyoncé sat at a polished mahogany table, surrounded by stacks of legal documents. Her team worked tirelessly, piecing together evidence to support her case. Photos of Amara's bruises, witness statements from household staff, and even text messages exchanged between Marcus and Amara pointed toward his guilt. Yet, Marcus's legal team countered with accusations of defamation, painting Beyoncé as an unstable mother desperate to maintain control. "You're stepping into uncharted territory here," her attorney warned, adjusting his glasses. "This won't be easy. Marcus has connections, powerful ones." "I don't care about his connections," Beyoncé replied firmly, her voice cutting through the tension. "All I care about is protecting my daughter. If it takes exposing him to the entire world, then so be it." Her determination was palpable, but beneath the surface, doubt crept in. What if they weren't enough? What if the system failed them? These thoughts gnawed at her late into the night, leaving her restless and weary. Meanwhile, Jay-Z rallied behind her, organizing press conferences and issuing statements to counter the smear campaign against her. His words carried weight, reminding the public of their family's integrity and dedication to justice. Together, they presented a united front, though the strain showed in subtle ways of furrowed brow, a clenched fist, a fleeting glance exchanged during moments of silence. One evening, after yet another grueling day of meetings, Beyoncé found herself alone in her study. She stared out the window at the city skyline, now cloaked in darkness, save for the twinkling lights of distant buildings. A single tear slid down her cheek, unnoticed, as she whispered softly, "Hold on, baby. We'll get through this, I promise." The scene shifts to a grand courtroom, its high ceilings adorned with intricate moldings and massive windows that let in the soft light of an overcast morning. The room buzzes with anticipation as spectators file in, their murmurs filling the space like a low hum. Beyoncé enters, dressed in an all-black ensemble sleek pencil skirt, a form-fitting blouse, and a tailored blazer. Her hair is pulled back into a tight bun, highlighting her strong jawline and determined expression. She carries herself with quiet dignity, her every movement deliberate. The air in the courtroom felt heavier than usual, charged with tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. Every eye was on Beyoncé as she took her seat at the defense table, flanked by her lawyers. Across from her sat Marcus Reed, his confident smirk barely masking the anxiety beneath. He wore a charcoal suit with a crisp white shirt, attempting to project professionalism, but the cracks in his facade were beginning to show. As the judge entered, the room fell silent. The gavel struck once, commanding order. The trial began, with both sides presenting their opening statements. Beyoncé's legal team laid out the case methodically, detailing the evidence against Marcus, photographs of Amara's bruises, witness testimonies, and text messages revealing suspicious exchanges. Each piece of evidence chipped away at Marcus's carefully constructed image. When Amara was called to testify, the entire courtroom seemed to hold its breath. She walked slowly to the stand, her small frame dwarfed by the towering surroundings. Dressed in a pale pink sweater and jeans, her dark curls framing her face, she looked fragile but resolute. Her voice trembled slightly as she began recounting the events, her gaze fixed firmly on the jury. "He told me no one would believe me," Amara said softly, her words cutting through the silence like a blade. "That mommy was too busy to care about what happened." Beyoncé fought back tears, her fist clenched tightly under the table. Every word her daughter spoke echoed in her mind, fueling her resolve. Beside her, Jay-Z placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, his presence grounding her in the storm of emotions. Marcus's lawyers pounced during cross-examination, questioning Amara's credibility and suggesting she might have misunderstood or exaggerated the incidents. Their tone bordered on aggressive, designed to intimidate. But Amara held her ground, answering each question with unwavering honesty. "Your Honor," Marcus's lead attorney said smoothly, turning to address the judge, "this child is impressionable. How can we trust her account without corroborating evidence?" The courtroom erupted in whispers, but Beyoncé remained composed. She knew this moment was crucial not just for her family, but for countless others who had suffered in silence. As the day drew to a close, the weight of the proceedings settled heavily upon everyone present. The scene remains in the courtroom, but now the atmosphere has shifted. The soft hum of anticipation has given way to a palpable silence, as if the entire room is holding its breath. Amara sits at the witness stand, her small frame still and composed despite the weight of the moment. Her pale pink sweater seems to glow softly under the warm daylight streaming through the windows, while her dark curls cascade gently over her shoulders. Beyoncé watches intently from the defense table, her black ensemble sharp and unwavering, her hands gripping the edge of the table tightly. Amara's voice was steady, though tinged with the faintest tremor. She recounted every detail the isolation Marcus had imposed, the threats he'd whispered when no one else was around, the times she'd felt truly afraid. Each word fell like a stone into the pool of the courtroom, rippling outward and stirring something deep within everyone present. He would tell me things, Amara continued, her gaze fixed on the jury, things that made me feel small, like I didn't matter. And then he'd laugh like it was all a joke. Her voice faltered for just a moment before finding its strength again. But it wasn't a joke. It hurt. Marcus's smirk faltered visibly. For the first time since the trial began, his composure cracked. His lawyers scrambled to regain control, firing rapid-fire questions at Amara, trying to discredit her testimony. But her answers were unshakable, each one delivered with quiet conviction. Did anyone else see what happened? One lawyer probed sharply. No, Amara replied simply, her tone firm. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. The courtroom erupted in murmurs, but the judge quickly silenced them with a sharp rap of the gavel. The tension hung thick in the air, pressing down on everyone like an invisible hand. Beyoncé sat motionless, her eyes locked on her daughter. Every word Amara spoke pierced her heart, yet filled her with pride. This brave little girl, her baby, was standing up against someone who had tried so hard to break her spirit. Tears pricked at the corners of Beyoncé's eyes, but she blinked them away, unwilling to let weakness show. Instead, she focused on the strength radiating from Amara, drawing courage from it herself. As Amara finished her testimony, the judge dismissed the jury for deliberation. The courtroom emptied slowly, leaving only Beyoncé, Jay-Z, their legal team, and Amara behind. They gathered together in a tight circle, hugging one another tightly. No words were needed. The bond they shared spoke louder than any speech ever could. The scene shifts to the courtroom, where the atmosphere is electric with anticipation. The jury has returned to their seats, and all eyes are on the judge as he motions for the proceedings to continue. Beyoncé sits rigidly at the defense table, her black ensemble immaculate, her expression a mix of hope and apprehension. Her hair remains pulled back into a tight bun, emphasizing her sharp jawline. Across from her, Marcus Reed appears increasingly uneasy, his charcoal suit now visibly wrinkled, betraying his growing anxiety. Just as Marcus's legal team began dismantling Amara's testimony, Beyoncé's attorney rose to present what would become the turning point of the trial. With deliberate precision, he approached the podium, holding a small electronic device in his hand, a smartwatch. Your Honor, the attorney began, his voice steady and authoritative, we have obtained conclusive evidence that corroborates Amara's account. This recording was captured on a device she wore during one of the incidents described in her testimony. A murmur rippled through the courtroom as the attorney activated the playback function. The room fell silent once more, every ear straining to hear the faint but unmistakable sound of Marcus's voice, cold and menacing. You think anyone will believe you? Marcus's voice echoed through the speakers, chilling even the most jaded observer. Your mom's too busy chasing her career to care about some little story you make up. No one will listen to you. The courtroom erupted in gasps, disbelief washing over the spectators like a tidal wave. Marcus's smirk vanished entirely, replaced by a look of sheer panic. His lawyers leapt to their feet, objecting vehemently, but the damage had already been done. The recording was undeniable proof, shattering any remaining doubt about Marcus's guilt. Beyoncé sat motionless, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt a surge of relief mixed with an overwhelming sense of vindication. Finally, after months of fear and uncertainty, the truth had come to light. Beside her, Jay-Z placed a firm hand on her shoulder, offering silent support. The judge called for order, his gavel striking the bench repeatedly until the commotion subsided. He then turned to Marcus, his expression stern. Mr. Reed, the judge said gravely, this evidence paints a disturbing picture. Do you wish to address it? Marcus hesitated, his lips parted as if searching for words, but none came. For the first time, he looked truly defeated, his facade crumbling under the weight of his own actions. The scene transitions to the courtroom, now buzzing with a mix of shock and outrage. The judge's gavel strikes firmly, demanding order as the crowd reacts to the damning evidence. Beyoncé sits upright at the defense table, her black ensemble unwavering, her expression a blend of relief and determination. Her hair remains perfectly styled in a tight bun, framing her face with sharp precision. Across from her, Marcus Reed appears defeated, his once smooth demeanor replaced by visible distress. His charcoal suit is rumpled, and his hands tremble slightly as he clutches the edge of the table. The fallout was immediate and relentless. As the recording played again for the jury, every word from Marcus's chilling threats reverberated through the room, leaving no room for doubt. The judge ordered him to be taken into custody, pending further investigation, and within moments, officers approached Marcus, their movements deliberate and authoritative. "No," Marcus shouted, his voice cracking under the pressure. "This isn't fair. She set me up." But his protests fell on deaf ears. The handcuffs clicked shut around his wrists, and as he was led out of the courtroom, the weight of his actions finally caught up with him. Spectators watched in stunned silence, some whispering among themselves, others openly applauding the justice that had been served. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed like bees, their microphones thrust forward, capturing every reaction. Beyoncé emerged alongside Jay-Z, flanked by their legal team. Cameras flashed incessantly, but she held her ground, her head high despite the storm surrounding her. Dressed in her all-black ensemble, she exuded strength and resilience, her dark eyes gleaming with resolve. "This case is about more than just my family," Beyoncé declared, her voice clear and powerful. "It's about standing up for every child who has ever felt silenced, every survivor who has ever doubted whether they'd be believed. Justice may not always come quickly, but today it came for Amara and for countless others like her." Her words resonated deeply, spreading beyond the confines of the courthouse and reaching millions through live broadcasts. Social media erupted with support, hashtags trending worldwide as people rallied behind Beyoncé and her fight for justice. Number Believe Survivors became a rallying cry, uniting voices across the globe. Meanwhile, investigations into Marcus's past uncovered a disturbing pattern of manipulation and abuse spanning years. Whistleblowers came forward, revealing how he had exploited his charm and influence to prey on vulnerable individuals. His once sterling reputation crumbled overnight, replaced by headlines exposing his dark secrets. Businesses cut ties, partnerships dissolved, and those who had once admired him now distanced themselves, eager to distance their names from his toxic legacy. As the dust began to settle, Beyoncé allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. Standing on the steps of the courthouse, she glanced at Jay-Z beside her, his steady presence a comforting anchor. Together, they shared a look that needed no words of promise, to continue fighting for what mattered most: their family, their truth, and their future. The scene shifts to the Carter-Knowles living room, where soft evening light filters through sheer curtains, casting a warm glow over the space. Beyoncé sits cross-legged on a plush velvet couch, her black ensemble exchanged for a cozy cream-colored sweater and fitted jeans. Her hair is loose now, cascading in waves down her back, giving her a softer, more relaxed appearance. Amara lies curled up beside her, wearing oversized pajamas with cartoon characters, her small hand resting trustingly in her mother's grasp. Jay-Z enters from the kitchen holding 2 steaming mugs of tea, his expression tender as he watches the pair. In the weeks following the trial, life began to slow down for the Carter-Knowles family. The relentless media scrutiny faded, replaced by a newfound sense of peace and normalcy. Beyoncé dedicated herself fully to healing not just for Amara, but for herself and her marriage as well. Together they worked to rebuild their bond, united by the shared experience of protecting their child. Amara started therapy sessions with a compassionate counselor who specialized in helping young survivors of abuse. Slowly but surely, she began opening up about her feelings, finding solace in creative outlets like drawing and writing. One evening, as Beyoncé sat beside her on the couch, Amara handed her a sketchbook filled with vibrant illustrations, bright flowers, smiling suns, and even stick figures resembling her family. "I made these for you," Amara said shyly, her voice barely above a whisper, "to show how I feel." Beyoncé's heart swelled with pride and love as she flipped through the pages. Each image told a story of resilience and hope, proof that her daughter was beginning to heal. "They're beautiful, baby," she whispered, pulling Amara close. "Just like you." Jay-Z, meanwhile, played an integral role in supporting both women. He spent evenings cooking meals, engaging Amara in playful conversations, and reminding Beyoncé of her strength. Their relationship, tested by the stress of the trial, grew stronger through open communication and mutual understanding. One night, after putting Amara to bed, they sat together on the balcony overlooking the city skyline. "You did amazing," Jay-Z said softly, his arm draped casually around her shoulders. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Beyoncé smiled faintly, leaning into his embrace. "We all did amazing. This wasn't just my fight, it was ours." Together, they vowed to use their platform to advocate for change. Inspired by Amara's journey, Beyoncé launched a foundation aimed at supporting child abuse survivors and raising awareness about the importance of believing victims. Through fundraisers, partnerships, and public speeches, she channeled her pain into purpose, inspiring countless others along the way. The scene opens on a grand stage, bathed in the soft hues of twilight. Spotlights illuminate Beyoncé as she stands center stage, dressed in an elegant floor-length gown that shimmers like liquid gold under the lights. Her dark hair is styled in loose waves, cascading down her back, and her eyes shine with determination and love. The audience sits in rapt attention, their faces lit by the glow of the stage. In the crowd, Amara sits proudly among family and friends, her smile radiant as she watches her mother perform. The night of the charity concert arrived, marking not only a celebration of resilience, but also a testament to the power of love and justice. As Beyoncé stepped onto the stage, the crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the vast auditorium. She raised her hand for silence, her voice resonating with raw emotion. "Tonight," she began, her tone steady yet heartfelt, "we gather here not just to raise funds for a cause, but to honor the strength of survivors everywhere. My daughter, Amara, taught me something invaluable during this journey, that even in our darkest moments, there is light, and that light comes from within us." Her words struck a chord with the audience, many of whom had followed her story closely. Some wiped away tears, others nodded in agreement, all united by the message of hope and healing she conveyed. As the music began, Beyoncé's voice soared, filling the room with its powerful timbre. Each note carried the weight of her experiences, the fear, the anger, the triumph, and transformed them into something beautiful. The camera panned across the audience, capturing their reactions, smiles, clapping hands, and tearful faces illuminated by the stage lights. Among them, Amara sat beaming, her earlier sadness replaced by a newfound confidence and joy. When the final notes faded, Beyoncé addressed the crowd once more. "To every survivor out there," she said, her voice ringing clear and strong, "you are not alone. Your voice matters. And together, we can create a world where no one ever has to face such darkness alone again." The audience rose to their feet, applauding thunderously as Beyoncé took a bow, her expression a mixture of gratitude and pride. Behind the scenes, Jay-Z waited with open arms, pulling her into a tight embrace as they celebrated the culmination of their fight. As the night drew to a close, Beyoncé returned to her dressing room, where Amara greeted her with a hug so fierce it nearly knocked the wind out of her. "I'm so proud of you, Mommy," Amara whispered, her voice filled with admiration. "And I'm so proud of you," Beyoncé replied, holding her daughter close. "We did this together." In that moment, surrounded by love and support, Beyoncé knew the battle was won not just for herself, but for every child who had ever doubted their worth or feared speaking up. Love truly could conquer all, and she would carry that lesson forward, forever changed by the experience. And that's where our story ends. What did you think of this story? Share your emotions in the comments below. We'd love to know what you remember most. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And if you are in the mood for another exciting story, check out our next video. It's waiting for you. Until then, stay curious, get inspired, and keep exploring the stories that make life extraordinary. See you in the next one.